Welcome to this video where we are doing some jobs on this Mitsubishi Evo 5. First job on the list is crunching into fifth gear. So we're going to get it on the ramp, get that gearbox off and send it away to gear tech. While the gearbox is out, we're going to do a few other little jobs. You can see here the steering rack boot is a bit twisted just where it's had its tracking done. And also if we go to the bench, we've got a brand new clutch. Looking at the old clutch, it's seen better days. There's loads of meat left on the actual friction plate, but the pressure plate, there's a couple of burn marks on it. That's usual for most cars. If people are lazy and they don't put the handbrake on when they're waiting on a hill and they're just leaving it on the clutch, that's what happens. So now we've untwisted that steering rack boot and we've fitted the clutch. You can see the new one on here, and the old one is over on the bench. So we're well over a week later, the gearbox is back and I've fitted it. They replaced fifth and first gear synchro. First wasn't so bad, but it was on its way, so it was worth doing while the gearbox was out. New oils in the box and the centre diff. I'm lucky, I know the parts manager, well, he was the parts manager at Mitsubishi for 15 years. When the 5, 6 and 7 Evos were there, so he knows all the correct oils and fluids to put in these things, so he got them all for me. But that's another job done. On with the next job. So the next job on the list is the front spotlights, and we can see this one's not working, but the other one, that's real dull to be honest, so we might have a partial blown bulb there or something's up, but yeah, let's get this fog light off. So once I've got the light out and I've stripped it down on the bench, I noticed that the bulb, you can see here, is only a 35 watt. Now, that's about 2 watts more than candle power. That's why our other side's dull. So Mitsubishi, they recommend 55 watt. So I'm going to order them in, and then job's a good one. They all work and they're much brighter. Ideal. Right, let's get on with the next one. So coming around the back, the AYC reservoir is over here in the boot. We need to change it using the launch to flush it through. So let's get it up in the air. And then with the clips out, we're going to take this cover off here and we can see both pipes that go up to that reservoir. And then what we're going to do is drain that reservoir now, fill it up with the new stuff, and then when we're bleeding it, we're flushing the new fluid through the system, not just bleeding the old stuff out of the reservoir. Does a better job, it gets rid of all that old stuff. So let's get cracking. Where can I put this? Over there. So we're going to drain it into a clear pot, and then we'll be able to see how dirty it is. Hopefully it's nice and clean and there's no bits of metal in it. Under here, tell you what, for one of these is rust free. So I don't know if this was recently imported or something like that, but it is nice under here. Right, let's try not to get this down my armpits. There we go. Don't smell burnt, which is good. We'll leave that draining. Make sure it's all out. Didn't spill a drop. So filling this up with the AYC, the type 2 fluid, if you spill any, the drain hole for this rear quarter sits directly above the AYC pump, so I've learned my last mistakes. It ends up looking like the AYC pump's leaking when it's actually just somebody spilt it. So we've got a ginormous syringe. The system only takes about 1 litre of fluid, but we're going to end up putting about 3 litres through it. just to make sure we got all the crud out that could be sat in the pump or in the diff. So let's fill it up and then we'll start bleeding. Boom, let's get a bit more. And then once our reservoir is full, we get our launch. I can go into the AYC. I've already checked, we've got no fault codes, which is good, means the AYC is okay. And then we can go on to service, and then we go on to bleed. Press that and hopefully the pump should start working. There we go. And then crack the nipples off. It comes out mega slow. As soon as it loses enough pressure, the pump will kick in again, and then we basically just stand like this for ages. Here it comes, very slow. I'll speed this up a bit so you can see it coming through. And then basically we continue to do this. I'll keep getting it down, filling it back up, bleeding it, getting it back down. The fluid is very black, so it was definitely worth doing. Let me just crack that off and then we'll go and put some more fluid in. But yeah, not a hard job. X431 launch, probably the cheapest diagnostic you can get, about 400 quid. You've got to get the Mitsubishi adapter with the 12 pin the other end, but it's one of those mega easy jobs. Just takes ages because it's little tiny lines. You don't want to over pressurize it. Next job on the list, brake fluid change. Like the AYC, I'm going to drain all the old stuff out the reservoir first, and then when we're bleeding it, we've got a nice fresh batch of new fluid that's going to go all through the ABS pump and through the system, and it's going to be nice and clean throughout. I'm going to use ATE race fluid, so instead of say a 4-year interval of brake fluid change, it's going to be every sort of 2 or 3 years, because it does absorb water better, but it's just a better performing brake fluid. And while we're here, for the extra 10 minutes work, let's just change the clutch fluid anyway. It's just there. I'll do the same, suck it out, fresh stuff in, and bleed that through. So let's crack on. So with both reservoirs nice and empty, in goes the new stuff. So we'll fill this up. Well, both of them, we'll do the brakes first and then childproof top on it. Can't open it, there we go. And then, yeah, we'll have most of our jobs then finished on this car. So even though the brake fluid tested okay and it looked all right in the reservoir, the stuff that's coming out of this caliper is quite, it's not black, it's quite brown. So definitely a good shout having the fluid done, you know. Better be safe than sorry, innit? At least you know now when it was done and, you know, future changes. Right, I'll carry on. Down, up, down, up. And then the last job on our list is there backwards, which is super annoying, but it's an easy fix. So we've got a Phillips screw in there, which we take out, and then that whole window switch pops out. Then we take the connector off and, oh, I was kind of hoping there was going to be one wire per switch and it was just in backwards, you know. But that window switch is actually an ECU, so that's a computer that controls all the windows. How can that be backwards unless the computer's telling it the wrong thing? That's weird. Leave it with me. I'll come back with a solution. So believe it or not, it's taken me longer to sort this little problem out than to put the gearbox back in. We're about 4 hours later. I should have done it quicker really, but so that being an ECU in the front, each door has its own ECU and each ECU should be in a set location. So here's the window switches. If you look on there, can you see one is yellow, one is brown. And obviously they're different for a reason. So basically the rear doors, if they've been stripped at one point, the passenger switch was in the driver's side and the driver's switch was in the back. So when that computer at the front, the window switch, was telling the driver's rear window to go down, well, the switch was in the passenger side. Sounds simple now, but that has taken ages. I've been through all the wiring, fuses, everything in case something was put backwards somewhere else. But let's get these on and give it a test. Let's put the right one on the right door. Right, final test. This one. Yes, make sure the switch in the back window works. That one. They are actually all working. That's it for the little jobs. We've got one last thing to do. So the last bit we got to do is my favourite bit, and that is the road test. So let's try these gears. So that was first, second, third, fourth, fifth. Nice. It's got some poke. So what we don't want to do is absolutely frap it, which gives the motor trade a bad name. So we're just going to do a nice trundle in the Malvern countryside, which is ideal. Everything's working, rev gauge, speedo, temperature, fuel gauge, indicators, yeah. So let's go back down to fourth. And we'll just try going into fifth a little bit hard, not overly hard, just to see if it crunches. Right. 4,000 revs, fifth, no. Ideal, job's a good one. To be fair, Gear Tech, they've done loads of these boxes for me in the past, and they always do a good job. But I don't know what it is with Mitsubishis. It's usually fourth and fifth gear synchro that goes, but yeah, first and fifth. So I've driven it around for a couple of miles, probably, what's that, 6 miles now? Yeah, not a problem, which is good. So third, fourth, yeah, gears are real nice, a real positive on this, which is good. Yeah. That's it, my work is done. It can go back. I think it's having different wheels fitted, and then back to the customer. Ideal. Right, thanks for watching. See you again.